Everything. Captain Kim Da-yoon's fingers danced across the holographic control panel of the command ship Indomitable as the encrypted message appeared on her screen. The bridge around her was a symphony of quiet activity. Dozens of officers, at their stations, monitoring everything from long-range sensors to weapon systems. But right now, all eyes were on her. Signal received. Admiral, she announced, turning toward the imposing figure standing at the center of the bridge. Captain Lee confirms they've rejected our terms. Fleet Admiral Park Hyun-woo stood like a statue carved from granite, his weathered face showing no emotion. At 65, he was the oldest serving officer in the Seoul Defense Corps, and every one of those years had been spent preparing for this moment. His grey hair was perfectly groomed, his uniform immaculate, but his eyes held the weight of 4 decades of military service. "Very well," Park said, his voice carrying the authority of absolute command. "Send the activation codes to all stations. Wake up the sleeping giants." Da-yoon's hands moved with practiced precision across her console. The message she was about to send would activate systems that had been dormant for decades. Weapons platforms that had been disguised as harmless space debris for generations. Her heart pounded as she entered the final authorization code. "Phoenix Protocol authorized," she announced, all stations responding, across the vast expanse of the Sol system. Automated systems began to stir. What appeared to be nothing more than floating rocks and dead satellites suddenly came alive with purpose. Power cores that had been running on minimal energy for years roared to full capacity. Weapon systems that had never been fired outside of testing began their startup sequences. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Chief Petty Officer Yoon Tae-young watched his instruments with satisfaction from inside what appeared to be a small asteroid. In reality, he was sitting in the control center of Firebase Alpha 7. One of hundreds of hidden weapons platforms scattered throughout the belt, power at 100%. He reported to his crew of 12, weapon systems online. Stealth field dropping in 3, 2, 1. The rocky exterior of the asteroid suddenly shimmered and disappeared, revealing a sleek military installation bristling with particle cannons and missile launchers. Round it, dozens of other asteroids underwent similar transformations, their camouflage falling away like shed skin. On the bridge of the Vorthok flagship Decimator, Commander Zeroth felt his confidence beginning to crack. His sensor officer, a nervous clicker named Tekrin, was chittering in alarm as data flooded across his screens. "Commander," Tekrin called out, his mandibles clicking rapidly. Massive energy build-ups throughout the system. Whatever the humans were hiding, it's all coming online at once. Zeroth rushed to the tactical display, his multiple eyes scanning the holographic representation of the Sol system, where moments before there had been empty space and harmless debris. His instruments now showed thousands of energy signatures blazing to life like stars being born. "Status report," he barked, his voice betraying the first hint of uncertainty. "Sir, we're detecting massive power buildups throughout the system," his tactical officer reported. Voice tight with confusion, "The asteroid belt isn't natural. It's all weapons platforms, hundreds of them." Admiral Vextar, Zeroth's second-in-command, studied the readings with growing alarm. "How is this possible? Our scouts surveyed this system extensively. There were no military installations. Because we weren't looking for them," Zeroth realized with growing dread. "They've been here all along, hiding in plain sight." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Choi Min-ho sat in the captain's chair of the stealth frigate Ghost, watching the tactical display with grim satisfaction. His ship, along with nearly 300 others, had been floating invisible in space for the past 6 months, waiting for this exact moment. All Ghost Squadron vessels, he announced over the encrypted comm channel. Drop stealth fields on my mark. Let's show these invaders what a real fleet looks like. The space round the human diplomatic fleet suddenly erupted with no context as ship after ship materialized from nowhere, sleek destroyers. Heavy cruisers and fast attack craft appeared like phantoms becoming solid. The human fleet of 200 visible ships suddenly became a force of over 500 vessels on the bridge of the Indomitable. Admiral Park watched the transformation of his carefully laid trap with professional satisfaction. Every ship, every weapon platform, every hidden installation had been positioned with mathematical precision. The Vorthok fleet wasn't just facing superior numbers. They were surrounded. Captain Kim Do-yoon coordinated the awakening systems with the efficiency of a master conductor leading an orchestra. All orbital platforms responding, she reported. Lunar Base, Mars Defense Grid, and Titan Station all confirmed ready status. Park nodded, then activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice would now reach every human vessel in the system, from the smallest patrol craft to the massive, hidden battleships that were just beginning to power up their main engines. All ships, this is Overlord. Park's voice crackled across the comm with cold authority. Execute Phoenix Protocol. Show them why Earth has no visitors. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across the solar system, weapons that had been designed and built in secret began to charge their capacitors. Ships that had been hidden in the shadows of moons and planets began moving into attack positions. The trap that humanity had spent 50 years preparing was finally springing closed. On Ceres Station, Commander Lee Yong-woo watched as the massive railguns built into the dwarf planet's surface began to extend from their concealed positions. Each weapon was the size of a skyscraper, capable of launching projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Target acquisition complete, his weapons officer reported. All guns trained on the enemy fleet. Back on the decimator, Zerov stared at his tactical display in growing horror. The humans hadn't just prepared defenses. They had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. Every moon, every planet. Every piece of space debris was either armed or hiding something that was armed. Sir Tekran whispered, his voice barely audible. I'm detecting power signatures we've never seen before. These weapons, they're beyond anything in our databases. General Crackter, the scarred Saurak warrior, pushed forward to examine the readings. Impossible. No species develops such technology so quickly, unless they weren't developing it quickly. Zeroth said slowly, the terrible truth beginning to dawn on him. Unless they've been working on this for generations, on the human command ship. Park allowed himself a thin smile as he watched the alien fleet's formation begin to show signs of panic. Ships were breaking formation, trying to get sensor readings on the countless threats that were now revealing themselves. Sir, Do-yoon reported, the enemy is attempting to scan our installations. Should we jam their sensors? No, Park replied. Let them see. Let them understand exactly what they're facing. Fear's a weapon too. The Admiral moved to the front of the bridge, looking out at the stars through the reinforced viewing port. Somewhere out there, nearly 10,000 alien warships were realizing they had walked into a trap 50 years in the making. Tactical. Park called out, what's our current advantage? Enemy fleet approximately 9,900 vessels. Sir, came the response. Our active forces now number 15,000 platforms and vessels, with an additional 8,000 automated defense systems coming online. Park nodded. The numbers were good, but numbers weren't everything. What mattered was that every single human weapon had been designed with one purpose: to destroy the Vorthok hegemony and anyone foolish enough to stand with them. The sleeping giant was awake, and it was hungry. The first human weapon to fire was the massive orbital cannon hidden inside Europa, Jupiter's ice moon. The blast lit up space like a newborn star. A beam of pure energy that crossed millions of kilometers in seconds and punched straight through the shields of a Vorthok heavy cruiser. The alien ship didn't just explode, it simply ceased to exist. Vaporized down to its component atoms, that single shot was the signal for hell to break loose. Particle beams and kinetic projectiles erupted from every direction as humanity's hidden arsenal revealed itself in full fury. Each shot had been calculated by quantum computers for maximum damage and terror. The aliens had come expecting to face a primitive species with simple weapons. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a killing field designed by master strategists. Commander Song Ji-hai felt the familiar thrill of combat as she pulled her fighter Reaper into a steep dive throw. Of the chaos round her, the 48 ships of Phantom Squadron moved like a school of deadly fish through the alien formation. Her fighter was small, barely 20 meters long, but it packed enough firepower to cripple a cruiser. Phoenix leader to all wings, she called over the comm. Her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Target their command ships first. Cut off their head, and the body dies. Her squadron responded instantly, breaking into attack formations they had practiced thousands of times. The Vorthok had superior numbers, but humanity had superior preparation. Every pilot knew exactly where to strike, exactly when to turn, exactly how to kill. Lieutenant Kim Jae-sung, flying on Song's wing, locked onto a Sorek destroyer that was trying to bring its main guns to bear on the human fleet. "I have tone on the reptile ship," he announced, using the squadron's nickname for Sorek vessels. "Take the shot," Song ordered. Jae-sung's fighter unleashed a spread of plasma torpedoes that spiraled through space like miniature suns, the Sorek destroyers. Shields flared and died as the weapons found their mark. Secondary explosions rippled along the alien ship's hull as its weapon magazines detonated. The aliens fought back desperately, their weapons formidable but predictable. Crimson energy beams lashed out from Vorthok ships, while Clickter vessels spat clouds of metallic projectiles. Morgoth war cruisers launched swarms of bioorganic missiles that writhed through space like living snakes. But every shot they fired was exactly where human tactical computers had calculated it would be. Earth's defenders moved like they could see the future, because in a way, they could. Every alien weapon system had been studied through decades of espionage. Every tactic had been analyzed and countered by the greatest military minds humanity had ever produced. Deep inside what the aliens thought was Phobos, the small moon of Mars, Admiral Bai Sujin commanded the hidden fortress Cerberus. The entire moon was actually a hollowed-out weapons platform, its surface covered with realistic fake rock and carefully placed debris to maintain the illusion. "All main batteries, target the enemy flagship," she ordered from her command center buried kilometers beneath the false surface. The moon's crust split open like a flower blooming, revealing weapon barrels the size of subway tunnels. The fortress Cerberus had been under construction for 30 years, its existence known only to the highest levels of Earth's government. Now it was about to justify every credit spent on its creation. The guns fired in sequence, sending projectiles across the solar system at tremendous speeds. Each shell was guided by its own AI and packed with enough explosive power to level a city. Admiral Bai watched with grim satisfaction as her weapons reached out across millions of kilometers to swat alien dreadnoughts from existence with contemptuous ease. Direct hit on target Alpha. Her gunnery officer reported, "Enemy flagships. Shields are down to 40%. Continue firing." Bai replied coldly, "I want that ship turned into scrap metal." On the bridge of the Decimator, Commander Zeroth clung to his command chair as another human projectile slammed into his ship's hull. The massive dreadnought shuddered like a wounded animal, its lights flickering as power systems strained too. Maintain shield integrity. Damage report. He shouted over the alarm klaxons. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. His damage control officer reported. Primary weapons offline. We've lost 60% of our fighter complement, Zeroth stared at the tactical display in growing horror. His mighty fleet, the largest invasion force in galactic history, was being systematically dismantled by what he had thought was a primitive species. Ships that had terrorized a dozen worlds were burning like candles in the vacuum. Sir, his communications officer called out. Admiral Kethwa is requesting permission to retreat to hyperspace. Granted. Zeroth snapped. All ships, prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace. But as the surviving alien vessels began to charge there, faster than light engines, something went wrong. The familiar hum of hyperspace generators died as mysterious energy fields enveloped the entire solar system. What's happening? Zeroth demanded. Sir, his science officer whispered in terror. Something is preventing hyperspace entry. We're trapped. The answer came from Admiral Baisujin aboard the hidden fortress. Ma'am, they're trying to retreat to hyperspace, her tactical officer reported. Negative. Bai replied with ice in her voice. Activate the inhibitor field. Nothing leaves this system without our permission. Round the solar system. Massive generators that had been disguised as research stations powered up to full capacity. The hyperspace inhibitor field was humanity's ultimate trap, a technology reverse-engineered from captured alien equipment and improved beyond the original designer's wildest dreams. The trap was perfect. The hegemony fleet found themselves caught in a sphere of death, with human forces attacking from every conceivable angle. There was no escape, no retreat, no mercy. Commander Song Ji-hai pulled her fighter into another attack run, this time targeting a heavy cruiser that was trying to reform its battle line. Her weapons found their mark, and another alien ship joined the growing debris field. Phoenix, leader to all squadrons, she called out, "The inhibitor field is active. They can't run anymore." Time to finish this. The human pilots pressed their attack with renewed fury. These aliens had come to enslave their world, to steal their freedom, to murder their families. Now, they would pay the price for their arrogance. Back on the alien flagship, Zeroth watched his fleet die ship by ship. The humans weren't just winning. They were demonstrating complete tactical superiority. Every move the aliens made was anticipated. Every counterattack neutralized before it could be effective. How? He whispered to himself. How did they know? His answer came in the form of a human transmission broadcast on all frequencies. Captain Li Wujin's voice filled the bridge. Come and measure despite the carnage surrounding them. We've been watching you for 50 years, Zeroth. Every battle you fought, we recorded. Every tactic you've used, we studied. Every weakness you've shown, we catalogued and prepared to exploit. We place agents in your fleets, your governments, your military academies. We learned everything about you while you learned nothing about us. Zeroth felt his blood turn too. Ice as the human continued. This isn't war, Commander. War implies to sides with a chance of victory. This is an execution, carried out by a species you should never have threatened. We gave you a chance to leave in peace. You chose conquest instead. Now face the consequences of that choice. Round the solar system, the slaughter continued with mechanical precision. Humanity had turned their home into a weapon. And now that weapon was devouring the greatest fleet ever assembled. The hunt was on. And there would be no survivors except those humanity chose to spare. Staff Sergeant Han Seokjin felt his powered armor thrum with energy as he led his 12-man Marine assault team through the twisted corridors of the Vorthik heavy cruiser Terror's Edge. The ship groaned round them like a dying beast, its hull cracked and bleeding atmosphere into the void. Emergency lighting cast everything in hellish red, and the artificial gravity kept cutting in and out, making their advance even more treacherous. "Contact ahead," whispered Private First Class Nam Jihan, his rifle's targeting laser painting a dot on the far wall. "3 Vorthok warriors. Looks like they're trying to set up a defensive position." Han signaled his team to stop and take cover behind the wreckage of a collapsed bulkhead. Through his helmet's advanced optics, he could see the aliens clearly. They were big creatures, easily 2.5 meters tall, with thick exoskeletons that could stop most conventional weapons. But the humans weren't carrying conventional weapons. "Kim, Shin, flank left," Han ordered through his suit's comm system. "Pak, Lee, take the right side. Everyone else, suppressing fire on my mark." The Marines moved like ghosts through the darkened corridors, their powered armor muffling every sound. Each suit was a masterpiece of human engineering, powered by miniature fusion reactors, equipped with personal shields, and armed with weapons that would have been considered impossible just decades ago. In position came the whispered reports from his flanking teams. "Execute," Han commanded. The corridor erupted in controlled violence. Plasma bolts lanced through the air, each shot precise and deadly. The Vorthok warriors barely had time to return fire before the flanking teams hit them from both sides. Their tough exoskeletons might as well have been paper against human military technology. "Section clear," reported Corporal Kim Tai-ho, checking his weapons parcel. 3 enemy KIA. No human casualties. They pushed deeper into the ship, past crew quarters filled with the acrid smell of burnt electronics and the sharp tang of alien blood. The Vorthok had been caught completely off guard by the boarding action. They had never faced an enemy that could teleport assault teams directly onto their ships through quantum display. "Cement technology," Sergeant Han crackled the voice of Corporal O'Eugen through the comm. "Bravo team has reached the bridge. Resistance was lighter than expected. Status report," Han replied, directing his team toward the engine compartment. "Bridge secured," Eugen reported, her voice tight with adrenaline. "Enemy command staff eliminated. We have control of navigation and weapons systems." Across the ship, similar scenes played out as human boarding parties systematically shut down vital systems. The Marines moved with lethal efficiency, their powered armor making them nearly unstoppable in the confined spaces of starship corridors. What had started as an invasion had become a massacre. Meanwhile, Captain Jiang Minsu stood on the bridge of his destroyer Vengeance, watching the tactical display with grim satisfaction. His ship was small compared to the alien dreadnoughts, but it packed weapons that defied conventional physics. As he watched, another Sauric battleship tried to break through the human perimeter. "Target the reptile ship," he ordered his weapons officer. "Give them a taste of the gravity cannon." The weapon fired with a sound like reality tearing, instead of a projectile or energy beam. It launched a localized gravitational distortion that traveled through space at light speed. When it hit the Sauric battleship, the results were spectacular and horrifying. The alien vessel crumpled like a tin can in a giant's fist as artificial gravity fields crushed it from multiple directions. The ship's hull collapsed inward, its crew crushed instantly by forces that multiplied their weight by thousands in seconds. A ship that had terrorized entire star systems was reduced to a ball of compressed metal and organic matter. "Direct hit," reported Lieutenant Commander Yu Sang-ho from the weapons station. "Target destroyed." But the gravity cannon was just one weapon in humanity's arsenal. Other ships fired quantum torpedoes that phased through shields as if they didn't exist, delivering their devastating payloads directly to enemy hulls. Plasma streams burned through the strongest armor like blow torches through butter, while kinetic weapons accelerated projectiles to significant fractions of light speed. The human weapons were beyond anything the hegemony had encountered. Decades of secret research, hidden from the galaxy's prying eyes, had produced technology that seemed almost magical in its effectiveness on the command ship Indomitable. Fleet Admiral Park Hyanwu watched the systematic destruction of the invasion. Fleet with the detached professionalism of a career soldier. Each alien ship that died brought them closer to their ultimate goal, sending a message that would echo across the galaxy. Status report on the enemy fleet, Park ordered, his hands clasped behind his back. Commander Lee So-young studied her tactical display, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. 97% casualties, sir. We've confirmed. The destruction of 9,603 enemy vessels. 17 ships are attempting to break through our perimeter at Grid 77. Park nodded slowly. The numbers were exactly what he had expected. The trap had been perfect, the execution flawless. But now came the most important part of the operation. Let them go, he said quietly. The bridge crew turned to stare at him in surprise. Several officers looked confused, others concerned. They had the firepower to destroy every last alien ship. Why show mercy now, sir? Lee So-young asked, her voice carefully neutral. Let them go, Park repeated, his voice carrying the absolute authority of command. Someone has to carry the message, Captain. Kim Do-yoon, the fleet's senior tactical officer, stepped forward. Sir, with respect, these ships could regroup and return with reinforcements. Park turned to face his officers, his weathered face showing no emotion. Captain, do you think any species in the galaxy will be eager to attack Earth after hearing what happened here today? Do you think the hegemony will be able to recruit allies for another invasion after word spreads of this defeat? The bridge fell silent as the implication sank in. This wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about psychological warfare on a galactic scale. The 17 ships that escape will carry the truth to every corner of known space. Park continued. They'll tell the galaxy that humanity isn't just another species to be conquered. They'll spread the word that Earth is defended by forces beyond their comprehension. Commander Zerat's flagship Decimator was one of the 17 ships limping toward the edge of the system. His once mighty vessel, pride of the Vorthic fleet, was now little more than a burning hulk held together by emergency force fields and desperate prayers to whatever gods the Vorthic believed in. The bridge was a scene of carnage and despair. Half the crew was dead, their bodies floating in the zero gravity where life support had failed. The rest worked frantically to keep the ship from breaking apart entirely. Zerov himself was wounded, green blood seeping from a gash across his forehead where a falling beam had struck him. Sir, his communications officer gasped through a broken mandible. The humans are broadcasting on all frequencies. Zerov looked up from the damage reports, his multiple eyes focusing on the main screen. The face that appeared was that of Fleet Admiral Park Hyanwu, calm and professional despite the destruction surrounding him. Attention surviving vessels of the Vorthic hegemony. Park's voice filled the bridge with quiet authority. You came to our home with conquest in your hearts. You threatened our families, our children, our way of life. You believed that strength came from numbers, that victory belonged to the ruthless. The human admiral paused, his eyes seeming to look directly at each survivor. Today you learned the truth. This is what happens when you mistake mercy for weakness. You are being allowed to leave not because we lack the power to destroy you, but because we choose to show you the same mercy you would have denied our people. Zeroth felt shame burn in his chest. The human was right. The hegemony had planned to enslave Earth's population, to strip their world of resources and break their spirit. Now they were being shown a compassion they had never intended to give. "Remember this day," Park continued, his voice carrying across the void to every surviving ship. "Remember why humanity stands alone among the stars, because we choose to. Remember that Earth's children are not prey to be hunted, but predators who have learned to control their nature. Tell the galaxy what you have seen here. Tell them that the sleeping giant has awakened, and it is not pleased." The transmission ended, leaving the alien survivors to contemplate their defeat in silence round them. The debris field that had once been the greatest military force in galactic history continued to expand, a monument to the folly of those who would threaten humanity's home. The message was clear. Earth was not a world to be conquered. It was a fortress defended by the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever known, and now everyone would know it. The 17 surviving ships of the hegemony fleet limped through hyperspace like wounded animals fleeing from a predator they had never imagined could exist. Their hulls were scarred, their crews traumatized, and their pride shattered beyond repair. What had begun as the greatest military expedition in galactic history had ended in complete and utter defeat. Commander Zeroth sat in the ruins of his flagship's bridge, staring at the tactical recordings that would soon change everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity. His once magnificent decimator was barely holding together, held in one piece by emergency force fields and the desperate work of his surviving engineers. "Sir," his communications officer whispered, her mandibles clicking nervously, "we're receiving transmission requests from over 300 news networks across 47 worlds. They want to know what happened." Zeroth closed his multiple eyes and tried to process the magnitude of their defeat. Out of 9,900 ships, only 17 had escaped. The humans had let them go, not because they couldn't destroy them, but because they chose to show mercy. The thought made his exoskeleton crawl with shame. "Put me through to Galactic News Network," he said finally. "It's time the galaxy learned the truth." Within hours, the interview was broadcasting across countless worlds. Commander Zeroth, once the terror of a dozen systems, now spoke in hushed, broken tones that barely resembled his former commanding voice. "They weren't primitive," he said, staring at something beyond the camera. "They were waiting all this time. We thought we were the apex predators of the galaxy. We were wrong. So very, very wrong." The interviewer, a Centaurian journalist named Kextel, leaned forward with interest. "Commander, you're saying that humanity deliberately appeared weaker than they actually were?" "Not appeared. They hid their true nature completely," Zeroth replied, his voice cracking. "We surveyed their system extensively. We saw a few hundred ships, some orbital platforms, nothing that should have posed a threat to our forces, but it was all an illusion. The entire solar system was a trap that had been centuries in the making," the recording showed. Clips from the battle, impossible weapons that crushed ships with gravity, torpedoes that passed through shields like they didn't exist, fighters that moved like they could predict the future. Across the galaxy, military analysts watched in stunned silence as their understanding of galactic power dynamics crumbled. On Vorthik Prime, the home world of the mighty hegemony, the High Council convened in emergency session. The Great Chamber, built to intimidate lesser species, now felt small and vulnerable as the council members watched the battle recordings in horrified silence. High Council of Ethics, his ancient exoskeleton scarred from 1,000 battles, studied the tactical displays with growing dread. How is this possible? Our intelligence services are the best in the galaxy. Tactical analyst Kethlin, a younger Vorthik with specialized cybernetic implants, manipulated the holographic battle display with trembling claws. based on the integration of their defensive systems, the coordination of their attacks, the sophistication of their technology. They've been preparing for this for centuries, possibly longer. Centuries, council members Earth and hissed in disbelief. But they only achieved spaceflight 200 years ago. No, Kathleen said quietly. That's when. They wanted us to think they achieved spaceflight. Look at these weapon systems, these tactics. Every piece of technology, every weapon, every strategy was designed specifically to counter our forces. They've been watching us, studying us, preparing to kill us for generations. The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. Every expansion of the hegemony, every conquest, every tactical decision had been observed and catalogued by an enemy they hadn't even known existed. Meanwhile, on dozens of other worlds, similar scenes played out as the galaxy's major powers grappled with this new reality. The Clicked Swarm held emergency meetings in their hive cities. The Sorok Republic's war chiefs gathered to discuss the impossible defeat of their allies. Even the mysterious Morgoth Collective emerged from their deep space territories to observe this shift in galactic power. The message that accompanied the survivors was broadcast on every frequency, translated into every known language. Captain Kim Do-yoon, standing on the bridge of the human flagship, delivered it with the calm professionalism that had become humanity's trademark. The human species extends this offer to all civilizations, she said, her image being transmitted to billions of beings across thousands of worlds. Leave us in peace, and we will leave you in peace. We have no desire for conquest, no need for expansion, no interest in ruling over others. She paused, and when she continued, her voice carried a weight that made hardened warriors across the galaxy shiver. But understand this, Earth is not a world to be conquered. It is the home of a species that has spent millennia perfecting the art of war while praying never to use it today. Our prayers went unanswered. Pray that yours are more fortunate. Lieutenant Colonel Nanjiu of the Seoul Defense Corps stood in the observation deck of the orbital station Sentinel, watching the massive debris field that stretched across millions of kilometers. Automated cleanup drones worked tirelessly to clear the wreckage, but it would take months to remove all traces of the battle. Sir, his aide reported, long-range sensors are detecting multiple fleets pulling back from the outer colonies. It looks like everyone's giving us a much wider berth. Nan nodded, watching as another piece of alien debris was collected by the cleanup crews. Each piece of wreckage represented a ship that had come to enslave his people, to steal their freedom, to destroy their way of life. Now those same pieces would be studied, reverse-engineered, and used to make humanity even more dangerous. Good, he said quietly. Maybe now they understand. In the months that followed, the galaxy transformed. Trade routes were rerouted to avoid the Sol system entirely. Diplomatic missions approached with extreme caution, broadcasting their peaceful intentions from light years away. The name Earth became synonymous with death among the starfaring races. The hegemony itself began to crumble as member species questioned whether they wanted to be associated with the organization that had provoked humanity's wrath. Some systems declared independence, while others formed new alliances specifically designed to avoid any conflict with Earth on the frontier world of Kepler-4b. A human trading post that had operated quietly for decades suddenly found itself the most important diplomatic facility in the sector. Ambassador Sarah Chen, who had spent years building relationships with alien traders, now found herself mediating between species that were terrified of accidentally offending humanity. They keep asking me what humans want, she reported to Earth Command during her weekly briefing. I tell them the same thing every time. We want to be left alone. But they don't seem to believe that a species with our capabilities doesn't have some hidden agenda. Fleet Admiral Park Hyenwu, now something of a legend throughout human space, reviewed the diplomatic reports with satisfaction. Perhaps that's for the best. Let them wonder. Fear of the unknown is often more effective than fear of the known. The 17 survivors of the Great Fleet had indeed carried their message to every corner of the galaxy. In the seedy bars of Alien worlds, spacers told stories of the battle in hushed whispers. In the halls of government, politicians debated how to respond to this new galactic superpower. In military academies, cadets studied the tactical recordings and tried to understand how an entire fleet could be so completely outmaneuvered. Commander Zeroth himself had become something of a celebrity, the sole surviving flag officer of the greatest military disaster in galactic history. He traveled from world to world, speaking to military leaders and government officials, always delivering the same message. Don't wake the sleeping giant. Don't threaten Earth, and above all, don't mistake human restraint for human weakness. Years passed. The debris field in the Sol system was finally cleared away, but the memory of what had happened there remained fresh in galactic consciousness. No alien fleet dared approach the system. Trade delegations announced their intentions weeks in advance and approached with the kind of respect usually reserved for gods. Humanity had wanted to be left alone. Now, finally, they were. The galaxy had learned to give the Sol system a very wide berth, and the children of Earth could continue their quiet existence, secure in the knowledge that their home was protected by the most feared military force in known space. The message had been delivered, and the galaxy had learned to listen. The E&D.